Welcome to the FBAA's Top Broker Podcast for mortgage brokers looking to take their business to the next level.
Hey guys, and welcome to the Top Broker Podcast. Jayden here this week. So we've got Peter Switzer back for part 2 of his interview. So last week we talked about the Royal Commission, what it means for brokers, what it meant when similar changes happened to financial planners, and we covered a couple of really good takeaways, with the biggest one being looking at education and how can we add more value to our clients. But Peter goes one step further this week. He gives us some really practical tips on dealing with these changes in the Royal Commissions, because the reality is something's going to change. It just won't stay the same, and we need to deal with that. So he has 4 or 5 really good tips that by the end of this episode, I know you guys are going to be pumped to put in your business and put into action, and you're going to get so much out of it. So without any further delay, let's start the show. So Peter Switzer, welcome back. Thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure.
So last week we obviously covered the Royal Commission, the big changes that are coming into our industry and what it could mean. It's not really clear what's going to happen exactly, but change is going to be inevitable. So, you saw the change in financial planning. You've got your own broking business. Where to from here for us? Like what can good brokers do to actually push themselves and keep up with this change?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and because we don't know totally what the government or Labor is proposing, and in all honesty, I think Labor is going to find it very hard to accept the recommendation, because it really does help the big banks at the expense of the mortgage broking fraternity and the smaller banks who are often the big lenders to mortgage broking. So I think Labor's going to have to come up with some kind of tweaking that recommendation. I have heard, I think the CEO of Mortgage Choice talked about maybe just a bigger upfront and maybe no trail, which in many ways I don't think it isn't necessarily a great idea. But look, I think the bottom line is the lazy mortgage brokers who've found it easy to survive under the current regime will probably look to exit the industry. The ones that survive, I think, really have to recognise the value of their brand and what they need to do to enhance it.
Yeah.
I've found a lot of small businesses that are actually brilliant, and I've seen it in lots of mortgage brokers, they're actually brilliant practitioners of what they do for the customer. But what they're not brilliant at is marketing, how good they are. And I've got to say, because I've hung out with some of the best marketing people in this country and worldwide, like guys like Richard Branson, who I've interviewed a number of times, and people like Simon Reynolds, who was one of the best ad agency principals in this country, and even some of the great speakers who a lot of the mortgage brokers have heard, guys like Marty Grunstein, who specialise in encouraging people to deal with customers in a more effective and supportive kind of way, but also to market how good you are. And that's the kind of thing I would be recommending a lot of brokers start thinking about, is assess the calibre of their marketing, work out what is their competitive advantage. I know I've talked to mortgage brokers before that I've been really influenced by Edward de Bono and that story about the 2 young boys walking in the forest without their shoes on. They encounter a grizzly bear, and one guy goes to his satchel, starts putting on his running shoes, and the other kid says, "What are you doing? Even with running shoes, you'll never outrun a grizzly bear." And to that, the other kid replied, "Well, I don't have to outrun the grizzly bear. I only have to outrun you." And
That's so true.
And it is so true. And I think about it a lot because, I'm in a very competitive industry, and when I look at what people in my industry are doing, both in the media and financial services, and I think to myself, well, they're putting on a pair of running shoes that will give them a competitive edge over me. I better go and get myself a better pair of running shoes and get myself fitter so I can outcompete them. I think this is the time when threats come along like this, that everybody in mortgage broking should be becoming really objective about themselves. I've often recommended doing a SWOT analysis, and historically, a lot of people, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, a lot of people think, I should do that in my business. And that's what mortgage brokers should be doing, standing back from their business. And I reckon what they'll find is that, particularly when it comes to marketing, they have weaknesses.
Yeah.
And improving the caliber of the marketing is the opportunity. And, of course, no one wants to do it with a large amount of expense because, money is always tight. But it might be time to get some kind of person who's really good at digital marketing, who will give you some insights that you've never thought of before. And also, then I would suggest doing a SWOT analysis on yourself as the business leader. I know Neil Perry did that before he grew Rockpool. His mentor suggested him doing a SWOT on himself. And that led Perry to realize that he was working in spaces where he had weakness, and like accounting and administration, and he was ignoring the areas where he had real strength, namely marketing, public relations, looking for television programs and writing books, all the stuff that could really enhance the brand. And so I think I would use this potential threat to the industry to do a SWOT on yourself, do a SWOT on your business. But then once you identify stuff, have the guts to spend some money to execute, because that's our greatest problem. I think we're scabby, we're tight on investing in ourselves, and sometimes, I know when people leave conferences where I've shared some insights that really have made a big difference in my business, I know a large percentage of the people in that audience will go back and read themselves on Monday after talking to them over the weekend. And if there's one thing that you should try and promise yourself to do this year is start changing, start executing, and put processes in place that makes you confront yourself. Get out. There's a great line from Jim Rohn, and Jim Rohn was a guy who Anthony Robbins learned a lot from. Robbins worked for Jim Rohn, and Rohn was a guy who said just about everything you want in life is just outside your comfort zone. And a lot of mortgage brokers are going to be tossed outside their comfort zone because of these changes, and it's the time to move, the time to act, time to change.
Peter, that's amazing advice. I think, just investing in yourself is probably the best place to invest this year. You don't even need to go on TV tonight. You can just give people that advice, and don't worry about the markets. Invest in yourself, and we're fine. Yeah. But I think, you're right. Like that's where we all need to start. And the SWOT analysis on brokers individually is amazing advice. So, Peter, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. There was a lot in that.
Great pleasure talking to you, and it's always great talking to mortgage brokers because I got to say, over the years, I've learned a lot from talking to them and listening. Perfect.
And if anyone wants to find you, where can we look you up online, Peter?
Yeah, the best thing would be go to Switzer Daily, which is switzer.com.au.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Well, another huge episode. Peter Switzer, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I'm sure you guys took a lot out of that. I'm going to listen to that a couple more times because I think just that one episode, the points, oh my gosh, let's break it down. So number one, the single biggest, or rather the single best investment you can make this year is in yourself. So how are you improving yourself? It's so true. And you put it really well. We go to these conferences, we spend a day there, we get really pumped, take a few notes away. And then by the time Monday rolls around, you're back in the business and doing what you normally do. So, point number two, and his old Neil Perry story is so true. Do a SWOT on yourself. Do a SWOT on you personally. Work out what you're good at and do more of that. And then work out what you're bad at. If you're not good at, writing articles, outsource it. Get someone online that can do it cheaper. If you suck at admin, then look at ways you can outsource that. Or, if you can't do that, look at ways you can improve. But really identifying that is the first step. And that's really powerful stuff, Peter. Thank you so much. And the third one, which is another really good one, is even take the SWOT one step further and analyze your business. You can be the best, have the best credit knowledge in the world, but if customers don't know about you, then you're not going to help them. So how are you marketing? How are you getting yourself out there to try and grow that? So Peter, thank you so much for your time. It was an amazing episode. I'm sure you guys are going to take a lot out of that. I know I did. So if you want to hit Peter up, you can go to switzer.com.au to subscribe to Switzer Daily. I'm on his mailing list. It's awesome. You definitely want to check it out. And if you've got any questions for us, hit us up at topbroker.com.au. We've got the weekly email that goes out, and obviously the podcast. So hopefully you get some ideas from that and you can actually keep growing your business. But until next week, that's all for today. If you liked the episode, leave a review on iTunes. We'd love to see that from you. And if you've got any comments, feedbacks, whatever, hit us up. But this is it. It's Jayden signing off.